He was just an ordinary guy chasing fame and fortune, thinking that if he found someone to run alongside him, his problems would disappear. He believed that, with time, he could achieve everything, until that moment came. But just 3 hours ago, his name was Hansen, and he was the son-in-law of the well-known Su family in El Shay. He was also married to Su, the #1 woman in El Shay. Even though the Su family was considered second tier, they were still well known in the building materials industry. 3 years ago, when Hansen married into the family, people thought he was a total loser. He became part of the Su family after attending several family dinners, and folks would say it was a shame that such a beautiful woman like Su ended up with a burden like him. 2 months after the wedding, the elder of the Su family, the one who had arranged the marriage, passed away from an illness. Since then, it's still a mystery why Hansen was ever chosen to join the family. Then he shows up at the birthday party he was invited to, hoping his suit isn't too wrinkled. His wife is there waiting for him and asks why it took him so long to arrive. He answers with another question, asking if Su's dad had already shown up. She also asks if it's not a bit late to be picking out a birthday gift for Grandma. Before walking into the party, Su confesses that even if relatives treat her like garbage, she'll just deal with it, and warns him to be careful with what he says. They finally walk into the party and use traffic as an excuse for being late. Her uncle reminds her that it's Grandma's birthday and says she should have paid more attention. She gives an awkward smile and admits she was careless. While people were whispering about Hansen, the guy with no job, they mentioned rumors that Su was the one supporting him, saying he just stayed at home doing laundry and cleaning. Then, in the middle of the conversation, someone shows up and asks if that thing Hansen is holding is supposed to be Grandma's gift. It was Ray Chow, Su's cousin, clearly trying to provoke him. Hansen, staying humble, says yes, he picked it out especially from a gift shop. But Ray Chow sneers, pulling a mocking smile as he ridicules Hansen's gift. Everyone starts laughing while Ray Chow keeps mocking, saying, "Grandma's turning 80, and that's the trash you picked out for her?" Ray Chow points to a cart stacked with gifts and says, "Now that's what I'm giving Grandma." Then he picks up one of the gifts and asks Hansen if he knows how much it's worth. But before Hansen can answer, Ray goes, "It's a solid 880,000 yuan. Everyone's jaw drops at the price of Ray Chow's gift. Su steps in and tells Ray Chow to knock off, asking why he's showing off so much. Ray shrugs and says, "I'm not showing off. I just don't feel the need to act humble in front of trash like Hansen." Then he adds, "I mean, it's obvious this guy doesn't care about Grandma's birthday. That little saint act of his? Total joke. He's just some clueless loser." Hansen stands there quietly, swallowing his pride for the sake of his wife. Ray Chow keeps going, saying maybe spending so much time around a loser like Hansen made Su forget what real pride even is. That's when Hansen grabs the gift out of Ray Chow's hand and sniffs it. He says, "Something's definitely off about this." Ray Chow quickly snatches the gift back and snaps, "This is for Grandma. You don't get to touch it." Hansen gives a small smile and apologizes, then says he remembers a friend once told him that traditional tea cakes like this are judged by 5 tiers, and the older the tea, the more valuable it is. He goes on to explain that some shady sellers dry the tea artificially to make it seem older, just to hike up the price. Ray Chow rolls his eyes and says he's getting irritated. Hansen calmly replies, "It's fine. It's just that the smell's off. You can tell the difference between raw and cooked tea." He explains that the tea cake Ray Chow brought has a darker green tint, meaning it's raw. The people around start whispering. Ray Chow is starting to look a little embarrassed. Then Hansen adds, "Fresh raw tea still has a lot of caffeine. It can mess with your stomach. As it ages, the caffeine levels drop. So, this tea you brought? Not aged enough. Honestly, it might even be bad for Grandma's health." He finishes by asking, "So are you really planning to give Grandma something low quality like that?" Ray Chow gets pissed and yells, "That's a lie. Grandma stopped drinking tea 2 years ago. How could it possibly harm her?" Hansen replies, "Exactly. You knew she doesn't drink tea anymore, so if it turned out to be fake, no one would ever find out." Ray Chow starts to panic as family members begin murmuring, questioning how he could have the nerve to try and scam Grandma like that. He points a finger and shouts, "This is all lies. What the hell does Hansen even know about tea?" As everyone starts chiming in, some siding with Ray, others with Hansen, Su gently tugs on Hansen's sleeve and asks, "Are you sure about this?" Hansen tells her to relax. His friend would never lie to him. Suddenly, there's a bit of commotion. Someone asks why there's such a big crowd gathered. Then they realize Grandma just arrived. Sue quickly tells her, Ray Chow brought an aged, poor tea cake as a gift, but Hanson thinks it might be fake. Ray jumps in. Grandma, don't listen to them. But Sue asks, so what do you think, Grandma? Is the tea cake real or not? Grandma takes the cake from Ray's hands and looks it over carefully. After a few moments, she announces, it's real. Then she turns to Hanson and asks, why would you make up lies about Ray Chow? Ray immediately puffs up with pride now that Grandma backed him up. People start laughing, and one woman even yells, Grandma, don't worry. He doesn't know anything. He's just a worthless bug. Hanson politely asks Grandma to take another look at the tea cake. But before she can, Sue slaps him across the face. She snaps, enough. Apologize to him. Now. Hanson, totally embarrassed, bows his head to Ray Chow and apologizes for causing trouble. Ray, of course, doesn't miss the chance to rub it in. Now I get it, he smirks. Even if it were fake, Grandma wouldn't call me out. I'm her grandson. You're just a nobody. Later, Sue comes up to Hanson and quietly tells him, I still owe you a slap. You can return it whenever you want. Hanson says he knows she only slapped him to stop things from getting worse, and he actually thanks her for snapping him back to reality. She raises her hand like she's about to slap him again, but stops at the last second, holding her hand there like she's fuming inside. He looks at her and asks, is that what you want? For me to change? Because you're the only one in this whole world who can make that happen. She tells him that before he changes, he needs to have capital, because in the Sue family, someone without value could never be the head of anything. In his mind, Hanson thought, this blind family really thinks they're in a position to talk about capital? Right then and there, Hanson swore to himself he'd show them what real capital looked like. Later that night, during Grandma's birthday dinner, everyone was eating, drinking, and chatting when someone burst into the party, saying they needed to speak with Grandma. She snapped, who dares interrupt my celebration? The man replied that someone wanted to send a gift to her. Grandma asked, and who exactly is this person? The guy explained that they had heard it was her birthday and came to offer their congratulations on behalf of the Lin family. As a gift, they brought her a golden phoenix hair comb. While the guy was listing off the presents, Hanson stood back, just quietly watching. Everyone there started laughing and mocking the Lin family's gifts. Sue, still annoyed from earlier, started to wonder, wait, is Hanson part of that family? But she quickly dismissed the thought. No way, that's impossible. Then the man announced the final gift, a cash offering of 8.88 million yuan. Everyone gasped. The room went dead silent. That kind of money blew them all away. Grandma raised her eyebrows and asked, that's quite a lot. Are you trying to marry one of my granddaughters or something? She looked the guy over and asked which son of the Lin family he was representing. He calmly replied, I'm just the guy delivering the gifts. That's all. Before leaving, the man wished Grandma well and quietly stepped out, just as Sue's cousin, Swera, showed up. She strutted and sang, obviously they choose me. I'm the best and the prettiest. She kept going on about how it wasn't her fault for being the most gorgeous one in the family. Ray Chow, never one to miss a shot, jumped in and said, sure, any of them could have a chance, except the one who got crowned the most beautiful in town, and still ended up marrying a piece of trash. Masha leaned over to Sue, half laughing. That's actually kinda sad. But hey, be grateful at least. Then she joined in mocking Hanson too. As Ray Chow kept running his mouth, Sue finally snapped. She slammed her hand on the table and shouted for everyone to shut up, saying they had crossed the line. Grandma stepped in right away, asking everyone to calm down. She said she'd handle things herself, and when she picked the bride, she'd hand over the money. Everyone awkwardly went back to eating like nothing had happened. Later that night, back at Sue's place, her mom leaned out the window yelling that Hanson never should have gone to that party. She shouted up to Sue, saying she must have been blind the day she married that loser. Sue's dad tried to calm her down, but she turned on him, calling him useless and blaming him for letting Hanson join their family in the first place. She kept going, saying Hanson had embarrassed Grandma again, and that at this rate, they wouldn't even see a dime of the inheritance. She screamed at Sue to make Hanson file for divorce. Hanson tried to say something, but Sue's mom wasn't listening. She was completely out of control. Sue stayed quiet, head down, just listening. But Hanson heard everything. He was standing right outside the door. Then Sue finally spoke up and asked her parents to stop fighting, saying she had no intention of divorcing Hanson. Her mom yelled, "Are you out of your mind? You want to stay with that failure forever. Sue answered calmly, "No, I'm not crazy. He might not be rich, but he works hard." Hansen stood outside, frozen, as he heard Sue say, "These past few years, is there any housework he hasn't done himself?" Then, even more softly, she added, "And even if I've looked down on him for what he's done, I've never hated him." She adds that Grandma would never allow her to get a divorce, because to Grandma, the Sue family's reputation was more important than any of them. After that, Sue leaves the room. Hansen, thinking to himself, silently apologizes that she has to go through all that. He calls his mom and asks who wanted to talk to him. Later, in the bedroom, while Sue is changing, she sees the door open. Startled, she asks Hansen what he's doing there and why he didn't knock before coming in. He doesn't answer. The next day, Hansen shows up at his mother's house and says, "Who would have thought that I, the youngest and most rejected in the Han family, would ever be useful to you?" His mom says she's glad he came to visit. She explains that his grandmother asked her to call him back because his dad is sick, his brother's in jail, and only Hansen can support the family now. Hansen says it's been 3 years and asks why she only remembered him now. Maybe the useless brother couldn't keep up the act anymore? His mom replies that she knows what happened to him these past years, and that none of it was fair, but it was Grandma's decision, and there was nothing she could do. Hansen agrees it wasn't fair 3 long years. He says his brother easily fooled everyone. Since childhood, Hansen tried everything to get his mom's attention, but it was never enough. Grandma, scared Hansen might take the brother's place as heir, kicked him out. Frustrated, he asks his mom, "If my brother had never gone to jail, would you have even remembered I existed? If it wasn't for the fact that now there's no heir left, would anyone even think about someone named Hansen?" He finishes by saying his grandmother didn't deserve to be his grandmother, and his mother didn't deserve to be his mother. His mom is left speechless, head down. Hansen then says it's not like he can't help. His mom gets excited and asks if he's serious, if he's really coming back. But Hansen says he'll do it on one condition. His mom asks, "What's the condition?" That was the condition. She hands him a card and says that Grandma had started a new company in the city, fully controlled by Han-san. And there was his capital to get started. He just stared at the card, wondering if this was some kind of test from Grandma. But even so, he knew she didn't have much time left, and that she doubted Han-san's abilities. So he decided to show Grandma, who really deserved to be the heir of the Han family, and what the consequences would be for underestimating him. Of course, he was going to take everything the Han family owed him, but he'd do it slowly. 3 days later, rumors about a storm heading toward the city started spreading among China's elite families. The Han Chin family had launched a new company in the city, which surprised everyone because it was a giant Chinese real estate company. The Han family's new company bought up all the undeveloped land, planning to build a whole new district in the city. The women from the Su family were talking about the news, wondering if this was the same Han family that had offered a bride price just 2 days ago. Then Suera showed up, saying it looked like she was about to get married and become part of an extremely rich family. Right after, she mocked Su with a jab, saying she was starting to feel sorry for whoever had married that useless loser. Grandma stepped in for Su and told everyone to be quiet, saying they were there to talk about important things. Grandma assumed everyone already knew about the Han family's new company and reminded them that the Su family owned a construction materials business. She suggests they try to make a deal with the new company since that way everyone could benefit. They say they get it, but so far, every person sent to negotiate with the new company has been rejected. Su adds that it's true, they sent someone, but they didn't even get to see the company's boss. Grandma, annoyed, yells that they need to try again. She says if the company is new and hasn't picked a partner yet, there's still a chance. If they can't see the boss, they should wait out front and take turns until someone gets to meet him. They say it's embarrassing to just stand there waiting in front of their building. Then Ray Chow tells Grandma that Sue's been pretty chill lately and asks why she doesn't send Sue first. Sue just stands there, shocked, waiting for Grandma's answer. Everyone starts pushing her to go, saying that since she always defends the company, now she needs to work a little to make up for all the trouble she's caused. Grandma asks Sue if she really wants to go. As she's thinking about it, her phone buzzes with a message. The message encourages her to work hard for the opportunity and tells her to follow Grandma's orders. She finds herself in a tough spot, pretty much impossible to say no. So she decides to trust the person who sent the message and tells Grandma she's willing to take the job. Ray Chow comments that he hopes Sue doesn't back out and that she doesn't miss the chance to meet the company's boss. Ray Chow's dad agrees and says he's right, then asks why they even keep Sue in the family if all she does is mess things up. Sue gets furious. In her head, she wonders what they're talking about since they always give her the worst jobs. Then she tells everyone not to worry about the job. She'll do it herself. But everyone there just starts laughing at her, saying she must be crazy. Ray Chow said nobody expects Sue to actually make a deal with the company. He said if she pulls it off, he'll make her some tea. But if she fails, they're kicking her out of the Sue family. Sue agrees to the deal and leaves that nightmare behind. Hansen was waiting for her outside, right after work. A guy shows up and asks if he wants a cigarette. The guy also asks if he's waiting for his wife to get off work again, saying he's been watching her leave for over 2 years now. He knows her routine better than her own co-workers. Hansen says he only does it because he's got nothing better to do. The guy asks if Hansen really thinks he's just a regular guy. Then why would he marry into the Sue family? Hansen says it seems like he's gotten pretty well known around there. The guy looks awkward and says that's not really what he meant. He says he's just curious because regular people couldn't put up with all that for so many years. So how did Hansen manage to handle all that unfairness? Hansen says it's because he's the son-in-law of that family. His wife has always been the target of jokes. He says she's strong, hardworking, and that what he went through is nothing compared to what she had to endure. When Hansen gets home, he hears a commotion. Yang's yelling at Sue, asking if she's crazy, saying Ray Chow pissed her off on purpose. His goal was to get her kicked out of the Sue family so there'd be fewer people fighting over the inheritance. They're desperate because how would they survive if they got kicked out? Sue answers, "How would I know if I never tried?" Then Sue asks Jen to trust her skills because she's absolutely sure she can close the deal. Jen, furious, calls her a piece of shit and says she can't do anything, not even open her mouth. Sue then stands up and heads for the door. Her mom asks where she's going since she hasn't finished talking yet. But Sue keeps walking, staring at Han in the kitchen. She asks him if he waited for her again outside the company after work. He says yes, joking. "Damn, I got caught." She tells him that from now on, he shouldn't hide out in restaurants. He needs to wait for her right in front of the company, because now they're going home together. Han's surprised by what he just heard. He asks if she's serious, and she snaps back. "And you don't want that?" He says he does, but at that moment he forgets the veggies on the stove, and Sue's mom starts yelling from the living room, asking what he's doing. Han hugs Sue and tells her not to worry about Quan Industries anymore, because the boss there is his friend. They're really close. She's surprised by the news. At the Sue family company, Ray Chow was laughing out loud, and Young asked why he was laughing so much. He says Sue asked Sun Qian to take her to Quan Industries. Yang is shocked and asks if he's serious, saying it seems like she finally gave up. Now it's just a matter of time before she gets kicked out of the family. But Yang asks, what if Sue actually manages to close a deal with them? Ray Chow tells her not to worry, because he's got another plan to get her out of the Sue family. But for that, he needs Yang on his side when the time comes. Yang agrees. Sue and Han finally arrive in front of the company. She was extremely nervous and anxious. Han told her to calm down, saying that with her skills, getting them to cooperate wouldn't be a problem at all. Sue took a deep breath, mustered up her courage, and finally walked into the company. When she got to the reception desk to introduce herself, the secretary already knew who she was before she could even say her name and told her that Manager Zong had been waiting for her for a while. As she walked down the hall, she heard noises and steady footsteps. Suddenly, a red carpet was rolled out right in front of her. They welcomed her warmly, thanked her for coming, and expressed excitement about the possibility of working together and negotiating. The manager then introduced himself, saying he was in charge of construction and also handled the company's negotiations. He told her the contract was already prepared, and if she wanted, she could sign it right there. Sue could hardly believe everything was going so smoothly, and all that fuss was just to hand her the contract. Then the manager asked if she had any questions and told her to wait a minute so he could explain. He said the boss was involved in a lot of social events and almost never showed up in person, but if she had any questions, she shouldn't hesitate to ask. She replied that she didn't have any questions, but pointed out that they hadn't actually negotiated anything yet and asked if he was joking with her. He answered, "Of course not. I wouldn't joke about something this important." He also mentioned that they had done some research on her and trusted her abilities. Zong then reached out his hand and said he believed she wouldn't disappoint them. She finally shook Zong's hand and said she'd do everything as expected. Right then, Sue got a message on her phone that said the contract was probably signed. She smiled, trying to hide it, and asked what happened and if it really went through. She happily celebrated, saying it was a success. Han was celebrating too, saying he knew she could do it. Then Sue suggested they pop some champagne to celebrate. Right at that moment, she got another message. It was about a family gathering happening right then. When she arrived, everyone was looking at her weirdly. Han asked Sue if she hadn't forgotten the promise she made yesterday. She replied that she hoped he hadn't forgotten either, since she'd managed to close the deal with Quan Industries. Sue's grandma looked shocked and asked if she really signed a contract with them. Sue said yes, and then showed the contract to her grandma. Rachel reacted by saying it was impossible. Sounded like Sue couldn't have negotiated a contract like that, and accused her of faking the document. Tia said she wasn't stupid enough to stoop that low, and that Sue really did close the deal, demanding that Rachel keep her promise right away. Sue said she was just lucky and didn't do anything special. Then Rachel asked Grandma what she thought about the promise, and Grandma replied that he should keep his promises. Hai Shaw bowed to Grandma and handed her some tea, just like he promised. Sue told Grandma that if there was nothing else, she'd head home to get the materials ready. Grandma then ended the meeting, and everyone started leaving the room. Hai Shaw was really upset about everything going on and started planning his revenge. At Sue's house, she and her parents celebrated the victory. Her mom said she got the contract, that she really was her daughter, and that she was lucky to be her mom. Han called her mom and said it wasn't just luck. Sue had done everything she could to get the contract. Jirani said this was Sue's achievement and that he had nothing to do with it, and Sue told her mom to stop. Sue's phone started ringing. It was Grandma saying Sue had been replaced by Rachel. Han heard it and got furious, but tried to convince Sue to beg Grandma to wait a little longer. Then Grandma hangs up on Sue. She asks Rachel if he's satisfied, and he says he is, very much so. He tells Grandma not to take it the wrong way, that he's not doing this to get back at her, but says Sue is a woman, and if she gains control of the company, all his properties will end up in Han Sanchez's hands. Grandma says she understands this is all about the Sue family and tells him to stop talking because she's heard enough. She says she can see right through Hai Shaw's plans and there's no point trying to fool her. Even the pigs didn't like the tea cake he gave her for her birthday. Kneeling, he promises Grandma he'll never do anything like that again. Sue is furious about being replaced by someone so incompetent. While Sue's parents argue, Han walks into her room where she's feeling really down about what happened. He asks if she's okay, and she says she is, since she's used to all of this by now. Han tells her to stop crying and says she can rest easy because no one's taking that job away from her out there. Then he calls an employee and asks if there were any problems. He says that starting tomorrow, the person representing the Sue enterprise will be replaced by Rachel, and the employee already knows what that means. At the Sue company, Hai Shaw arrives and extends his hand to Zong as a greeting, but Zong completely ignores him. Rachel introduces himself as the person in charge of the project. Zong ignores him too and asks where the problem is. Rachel says Sue got sick, so he's the new person responsible now. Zong turns away and says that if that's the case, they'll talk again once Miss Sue recovers. Rachel runs after him, saying he's way better than Sue at negotiating, that they're not even comparable. But Zong ignores him, and Rachel keeps going. Then Zong cuts him off, saying enough is enough. There are plenty of companies interested in working with them, and since the Sue family is so hypocritical, he's going to reconsider the whole thing. Then he leaves arrogantly, leaving Rachel kneeling on the floor. Grandma can't believe Zong reconsidered the contract and asks Rachel what he said to offend them. Rachel says he didn't say anything offensive and that Zong left right after refusing to meet there. But then he says Zong already signed the contract and asks Grandma if he can back out now. Grandma replies that the company's boss is from the Anjinya family and there's no way to fight them. She adds that she's not going to worry about it and that Rachel is handling the negotiations. If he doesn't fix the problem now, he'll get what he deserves. Sue's phone starts ringing again, but she doesn't answer it. Han Sanker does, just watching Rachel panic and asking Sue to come back to the company. Han says he's sick and won't be able to make it. Rachel freaks out on the phone, saying Han has no right to reply to her messages, but Han just hangs up. Meanwhile, Rachel gets furious and even throws his phone hard on the ground. Haishaw heads over to Sue's house, and Rachel is already there waiting. Actually, a guy shows up at her house and punches Rachel in the face, asking how Han could just hang up on him. Before the guy can throw another punch, Rachel kicks him back. While Haishaw is lying on the floor groaning in pain, Sue comes over and asks Han Sankar what all the noise is about. He says it's nothing, that it was just Rachel, who had just arrived. Sue asks who he thinks he is to kick someone, and asks if he even knows the consequences of his actions. But for the first time, Rachel straightens up and tells him he has nothing to say to him, because the one who makes the decisions about replacements in the company is Grandma. He says if he has a problem with the decision, he needs to deal with Grandma, not Rachel. When the blonde guy tries to get the upper hand again, asking what just happened, Rachel says the company decided to put Sue in charge and won't work with anyone but her. That's why Haishaw was there. He came begging Sue to come back to the company. So Sue says that before anything else, she asked Grandma to come in person and asks him if that's really possible.